Today we're going to be doing the Gwent tier list for the Balance Council changes for February. I thought we'd just briefly take a look at the win right here for top 250. Top 100 is basically the same. Make sure you're looking at mirror correction, guys, when you do this. Otherwise, Nilfgaard's clearly incorrect. So, Syndicate, by far the best faction. Nilfgaard, second best. Then we got kind of a three-way tie between Monsters, Northern Realms, and Skellige. Scoia'tael a little bit lower. I think if we go to top 100, it's pretty much the same. 500 getting too low of MMR for players. But yeah, pretty much the same thing. Syndicate the best, Nilfgaard's the second best, then kind of a tie. Scoia'tael catches up a little bit there. But yeah, those two are definitely the best. So, that in mind, let's take a look at what we're doing here on the Balance Council. If you want the full in-depth breakdown of all my games this season, no, it's last season now, and what I thought of them, what I actually encountered, that'll be in the second half of this video. But as far as the tier list itself, we've got top tier, changes I really like, cards I think that need the buff, or cards that getting a buff really helps them get into decks, make it into the game. Good changes I just like. I think they're beneficial. Neutral changes I don't care one way or the other, either because the card probably still won't see play or because I don't really have a strong opinion on it because I don't really deal with it too much. Questionable changes are things like neutral I'm not too sure about, but I'm not liking it at my first impression. It's like a first impression, obviously. Haven't played any games yet. And then bad, I'm pretty sure these changes will be bad and I don't like them. And then we have not talking about it. This is for the things that change so often I just don't want to talk about it anymore. If it goes in here, it's because it's been on like at least 4 balance councils. And Nausicaa Sergeant, I guarantee some go on here already. So let's take a look at what we have here. Beginning with a buff, we'll begin with provision increases. So a buff to Shield Wall. I'm a little questionable on this one. I just generally don't like leader changes too much. And Shield Wall has the Golden Necker deck with Witchers, which is pretty decent. And I've seen it with that pretty, not that often last season, I don't think, but not too sure about this. Ale the Ancestors, probably worthy of a change. Ale's an incredibly strong card. He's got resilience, has infused order. Even if you play no Golden Frost or anything in your deck, it's still good. So that's what it's interesting. Then we have probably good, although I do really like Ale the Ancestors, but probably warranted. Triss Meteor Shower. This is a provision increase. This is been a long time coming to nerf Triss Meteor Shower as a finisher just to Renfri spam decks. She is incredibly good at what she does, and she was a little too cheap for what she does, I think. Next up, we have the Artaud. Whoever's idea it was to buff one of the best cards in Assimilate, I'm still blown away that this was a Balance Council suggestion last patch, but this is good. I'm not gonna say it's top tier because Enslaved Assimilate is still probably gonna be a good deck. A couple of the buffs I think aren't gonna go through. Actually, might get reverted. Probably good though. Golden Necker. As much as I like Golden Necker, as much as it is a great card, the fact that 3 of my 4 best decks of last season were Golden Necker decks says something with the power level of the card. It probably does deserve this. It's just going to end up cutting Ciri out of the decks, I think, though, to make space for the other synergistic stuff. Jan's going down here. We have Iris getting a nerf as well. This is probably good. She's exploited pretty heavily in Renfri decks. She's also used quite a bit in Northern Realms for Erland. Well, not as much as for Renfri, but I guess she's used there for Renfri too. Just very, very good card, even without the tutoring aspect. Squirtle got a provision nerf. This is going straight in neutral because this is part of a 2-step process to buff him, I believe. He wants to be 9 with 1 more base power. He got 1 more base power before, but got immediately reverted because people thought it was too strong, so that's why this is here. Once it gets the second change, we'll actually rank it. Shady Vendor getting a change. This is probably top tier. As we saw, Syndicate was the best faction last season by almost a mile in terms of win rate percentages. The Syndicate Cove Gang deck we did a video on previously, that deck was probably the best deck, and the fact that pulling the strings was so consistent off of this, and it also could enable bringing back the Open Sesame to 5, because this is more expensive, maybe. This is probably worth it, or warranted, I should say. Slave Drivers going right down here, and Slave got reverted. This is good. Next to Artaud. I don't know why Enslave was a 16 version leader. It's one of the best leaders in the game. And this going to 16 convinced at least several people last season I ran to just to play Golden Necker and Slave instead of other stuff because it's such a strong leader. Helvide going to 9. Oops, don't want to scroll that. Helvide going to 9. I'm a little nervous about this one, but it's probably only going in Firesworn, unlike Fallen Knights, because there's no Intimidate or anything. So this is probably fine, but it's probably fine. So we'll give it a good, I suppose. Firesworn's meta dependent, and this is one of the best cards in it. Maybe Golden Necker Firesworn's a thing now. Maybe. Angus getting a power nerf. This card's incredibly annoying. The most common Scoia'tael deck we faced last season was Angus with Trapper spam. They like heist the trappers and take all your cards and turn them to Deadeyes. So this is probably fine at 5. It's easier to remove that way. A lot of decks can't necessarily get it at 6, although is that a question? Should you be running 6 power removal? Maybe, but I like it. Avlok Sage, I'm a little I don't know. Avlok Sage, I see a lot of Avlok Sage, and with Portal's buff too, this also just buffs like the best Syndicate, not Syndicate, the best Skellige decks we ran to last season. The most common one was Witchers, and this they play Portal, so this is another buff to that deck, which I'm not too sure about. That deck was already really good, so I'm neutral on this one. I lean to questionable. It's probably fine, but the fact that the Skellige Witcher deck was the best deck, not best, one of the most common decks we saw last season, makes me doubt it a little bit. I do like the change to, this is going in top tier, to Dead Man's Tongue though. I like having more options for consistency in Nilfgaard, so maybe people aren't always playing Jan. Maybe we saw a little bit more experimentation with Magni divisions recently. We saw some more Blight Makers coming back with Jans getting nerfed, but I like this just being more competitive as an option because it's one you rarely see play. Although I think I've seen it a few times in like Imperator Enforcers decks, which we might try that out now that's got buffed. Then we have, what's this called? It's in my deck. How do I not know what it's called? This is Offering to Sea. So this went from 7 to 6. We are in the provision. Decreases now the buffs, if that wasn't clear by me saying that there were buffs. So this was a buff, Helvide was a buff, and so is this. And this is a nerf because this provision decreased to a leader. So Offering's just really, it's good when comboed with exactly Herald on Crate. Not Herald on Crate. The one who spawns the skulls. The guy who spawns the skulls, whose name I can never remember. It's great when comboed with him because you hit the skulls and then they do damage. But outside that, you can play it in mainly Golden Necker Self Wound. So maybe this will see a little bit more use outside of it because it is a really interesting card at the end of the day. Secret Service. Secret Service was played at 7. It was played extensively at 6. I think it was fine at either. Like 7, even at 7, people still played it pretty frequently, in my experience. So I think this was fine at 7. At 6, I guess we want to buff Northern Realms as a whole faction because this is like in every deck. So I guess sure. I don't really care too much about this one. I don't have strong feelings, rather I should say. Open Sesame. It's going down here. That's going down there. Vriad Brigade. This is the one when you move it, it does 2 random damage. I really like this change. It gives you a 4 Persian Elf option that maybe sometimes you'd get a movement on. It doesn't require, because anything that's 5 provisions versus 4 is like a commitment to adding another provision. Like, those 4 provision cards are kind of free in your deck. So at 4, this makes a lot more sense. It does play for 6 now. It means you have competition for the Bowman, which is, I guess, 7 if you play it ranged. But it gives you some options here. Maybe you can move it. Maybe play more movement with this thing. I think that's interesting. Probably a good change. Probably won't see too much play, but might get experimented with. Tirk V. I like this change. I'm not sure. I like buffing this card. I'm not sure about power versus provisions. The one nice thing about power for him is he does play for more if they purify the rupture. Because they purify the rupture, he only has his own value. And purify is pretty common. So the fact that he now plays for 8 or 9 if you have King Bran, I do like that. I think that's interesting. I don't know if he needs more power or what. We'll see. Then we have Elias. Just a good change overall to this card. I don't know if it's enough to make it see play, because it does destroy something, then spawn your 2 Deadeyes, but this is a much more interesting card, because it comes with a risk and reward. Right? You have to have something you want to kill to spawn the cards, so it's more interesting, I think, than like Angus, maybe. So I like this one getting buffed. Brayhan also like getting buffed. It just felt a little weaker. If you compare the in-faction, like, removal, the devotion removal, I guess we should say, Brayhan was like one of the weakest ones, because it has a lot of setup and pretty limited just to pretty much just limited movement, although I did see at least one person playing this in Symbiosis Devotion as removal. Milva's buff, also quite like. She just wasn't playing for enough that she was saying cut out of the Gold Necker movement decks, even that I saw. So this also helps. I don't know what their 3 random damage card would be. I think mainly 2 is the big one, but if you do 2 damage, say you fog the row, it does 2 damage, and then you play something, move something, she has to shoot and die to the next one, I guess, but I think just another base power in her helps her get closer to the payoff thresholds you need for her to be worth it. Sarah got buffed. I really like this. I'm just going to put this in top tier. I think Sarah and Johnny are like 2 of the classic cards that really, they kind of fell off. They completely fell off. I like these cards. I think that they make interesting decks where you rely more on special cards. And Sarah in particular is more interesting than Johnny because you're not just spamming damage like Johnny does extra damage. Sarah I think is more interesting because the blend in making your units, boosting them up. I don't know why I was trying to say boosting them up. So I like this change a lot. This is probably just bias. Sergeant right there. Maxi is one I didn't think about, but we're going to top tier. Maxi is one of those consistency cards that isn't. It's a consistency card, but the fact that she shuffles your deck is really just used like round one, either to set something up, like you want to stick your artifact or golden record deck on the bottom, or you want to use it round two or round one or two, see what's coming up. In round two in particular, you might want to shuffle if you don't have, say, your key combo card. But she was generally not playing for as many points. And I really noticed this particular play with monsters because you'd often play a Maxi in there because you'd trigger your Thrives or something. And I don't know, she wasn't making the cut. So I like this change. I really like this. I like seeing Maxi get played. I think that having an option like this in the game is really great. Magpie going up here. Every time Magpie gets buffed, we put it in top tier just because it's such an interesting card. It has so much potential to let you set up combos and far more interesting combo potential setup than something like the Open Sesame where you just play it and then you count down. This is more interesting because you have to take turns to set it up. The opponent can interrupt it. And the fact that it makes a coin, sure, it just didn't play for enough. It still got buffed, it still didn't play for enough. So I think maybe now, maybe you'll finally see the Magpie getting use. I hope. Because I think this card is really cool. Speaking of cool, we're throwing Ghoul in top tier. We played Ghoul last season in our Lilith's Omen deck as an alternative or addition to the Incubus as a finisher. It's got a base power. We're in power increases now, in case you guys didn't catch on. I'll put a little chapter in so you guys won't get confused. But Ghoul, I think, is such a good change, such a good card to buff, because to me at least, Ghoul just seems like the identity of monsters. It goes big, it consumes in the graveyard, and it boosts itself. Like it goes really big and eats your graveyard. It's such a thematic monsters card. It's such a classic monsters card. And actually, to power, if we think about it, the comparison's always Incubus, right? If we Incubus a Griffin, that's 13 points on our side. If we give them a 3, that's a 10-point swing. If we Ghoul the Griffin, it's now 11, and they don't get anything on their side. Downside, of course, is it's on 1 point, and it can be reset. The upside, and also the just having more points on the board lets you get to Sabbath faster with the Incubus. But I think this might actually be worth considering as an alternative Incubus now. Because on average, say you bring back a 3-point unit with the Incubus, like sometimes you bring back a 1, right? There's the Radiant Secret Services, there's little tokens, stuff like that. You bring back a 1. Not tokens, but you know what I mean, like 1 power guys. Thinning stuff. You bring that back, and then you're getting 12 points off of your Incubus, which is only 1 less. Like, if you're bring back a 3-point or higher with Incubus, it's technically better to play a Ghoul now, which is interesting. Really like it. Then we get to one that I had no idea. Where is this coming from? Seagull getting a power puts this to a 9 for 4. This is a 9 for 4 with carryover, assuming the damage hits. What are we doing? Am I just off? Like what's with this? Can someone explain this one to me? We still saw it in Pirates. Saw a good number of Pirates last season. This is still in Pirates. This is in Raid Warriors. Why is this? Is it because it didn't make it into Renfri Beasts? I think it did though. At least in my opponents that were playing Renfri Beasts, it made it in. Like this guy's played in like 3 decks. I'm just confused. Berengar, good change. Like you said, Skellige Witchers was incredibly strong, although it did get a couple other buffs here, so it just makes this one big plays a little bit smaller because Berengar was, yeah, it's a payoff for being 6 provisions and playing just in your archetype, but it was a really big payoff. Demon Smuggler, I think this has been changed enough. It's down here because I don't feel like talking about it anymore. And then we have the Iris's Servants. Where's Iris? Or Iris Companions? Where's Iris? Let's go together. Another nerf to that. Although to be fair, as a package, the Renfri package is getting completely hit here. Which, to be fair, I don't like Renfri. But even this might be a bit much. Yeah, it might be a bit much. Although these guys are used outside of her sometimes. Only 2 more nerfs to Living Armor, so I don't have to put this on the tier list anymore. Riptide, we all know where that's going. Literally, I'm not too sure why this is getting nerfed. I guess It's to nerf the alternative to Renfri in the Traveling Priestess decks, although obviously Priestess is the card there, not literally. Priestess is literally better than her. Maybe we'll see that. I guess we'll put this one here. I don't have strong feelings, but I don't think it changes much. Then we have Rainfarn getting another power decrease. I can see it. I don't know how. It's one different point on him. But to be fair, the thing with Rainfarn is whenever you play him, you're trying to get like 40 points off his order or something ridiculous. Not his order, his deploy. So the thing that this does, though, is it enables Coup, because you can Coup Deathblow this now, which might let us. It's not Golden Echo range, and neither is Coup anymore. But this might let us see some interesting stuff with Coup and Rainfarn. That could be kind of fun. So that was worth experimenting with, and just the fact that Knights always go so tall, there's always punishes to it. So I'm not too concerned about being overpowered, but I think it might be interesting to try coups with this. Renfri lost to power. She's down here. Then we have Renfri's Gang. Finally, no longer the best thinning card in the game, because it used to play for 12. Best thinning tempo, I should say. So this is good. This isn't top tier. Like, the fact that this always played for 12, it always blew my mind that Renfri's Gang was the best tempo thinning you could do in the entire game. Isn't Renfri supposed to be the payoff, not the gang? I don't know. That was always weird to me. I don't know if this is also going to 5 provisions next, and honestly, it's whatever, but the fact this is not 6 anymore makes me kind of happy. And then we have the Tiersec Skirmisher. This guy going to 4 means that now he's 3 for 4 instead of 4 for 5. Does that mean discard gets a look again? Do we play discard in Skellige? Maybe. It might be worth trying out again. I did want to try some discard Skellige last season, but the fact that this hadn't gotten its buffs through all the way yet, or its rework, not rework, it is a buff to be 4 provisions at 3 instead. So I do like that. I think we'll try it out, and that is going to be the tier list, guys. Let me just look it over real quick here. Yeah, this is good. I think I'm pretty happy with this so far. Maybe we're being a bit positive. Let's think. Anything else I'm not too happy with? The Seagull I just don't get. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my bias is that in the games I play, I see people playing this and it doesn't get played higher than my MMR, which is possible. But I don't get the Seagull. It's it's 9 for 4 with 3 damage. And it has carryover. I guess the damage, it's not 9 for 4 on deploy, I should say. It's 9 for 4 value because you bring the other ones back. Wait, it's not even 9 for 4. What am I talking about? This is 11 for 4. You hit 3 things with a Seagull, so it plays for 5 now. You spawn 3 Seagulls, they come back for 6. What is this? Like, I just don't get it. This is an 11 for 4 card. I was being generous, I said 9 for 4. I wasn't even right. I don't get it, though. This is wild to me. What's up with Seagull? Please, someone please comment what's up with Seagull. Please comment if I'm just wrong about Seagull, and let me know what the logic is to buffing this, because I see this thing pretty commonly as it is. So I don't know what this is, and it's a buff to something that spawns 3 copies of itself. So it's a 4-point buff to the card every time you use it, if it hits stuff. I don't get it. That's wild to me. And then these guys, obviously, we're just not talking about. They're getting changed. They're going to get changed again. Not really much point. We've already set our piece on those. So anyway, guys, that is the tier list. Let me know what you think. Again, please explain to me why I'm wrong about Seagull, because I don't get it. And as far as the rest, seems pretty decent overall. Should have a couple things to try out. Maybe some movement. I'll maybe show off the Golden Necker self-wound again. Maybe try out some more ghouls. You guys know how it is. We'll see what we try out. Hopefully you enjoyed the tier list. Stick around for part 2 if you want to see what our season summary was like, and we will see you in the next video if you decide to turn off now. And now for the season summary. Let's see what we've got here. We'll start off with the faction distribution. We saw 24.1% Nilfgaard and Skellige. They tied this season, as always, making up about half of the games. Then we had monsters clocking at 19%, 11% Northern Realms, 16% Scoia'tael, and 6% Syndicate. Although which is funny because I'm pretty sure Syndicate was the best faction this season. Just says people don't like playing it. So yeah, nothing here surprises me, other than Syndicate being extremely good for its low player count. But that's not a surprise, it's just a comment. As far as the decks per faction, this is one of my favorite sets. As always here, we have the horizontal axis, the number of times we face these decks. I included the ones we faced 2 times or more. I debated moving up to 3, but that we didn't have as much to talk about now, would we? And then the number at the top here is the difference from the average MMR of a game I played, where I encountered these. So if I played these decks on average, say Tatterwing, say our average MMR of a game this entire season was 2450. So me Tatterwing encountered at 2470, whereas Witches South we countered a lot lower on the ladder. So that is what the number is. Here, the most successful deck we saw was Tatterwing, at least the most common one at a high rank. Tatterwing and Fruits, pretty common. We saw some Morntart Harpies doing pretty well too. We also encountered some Witches Sabbath nonsense and some no unit hyper controls. They didn't do as well. We also saw some Arachaswarm non-Tattering, which was nice to see. Some Dagon Deathwish. Frost was a perfectly average performing deck, it seemed. Saw some of it. Golden Echo Relics, I'm glad to see this one. I like the Golden Echo Relic decks myself. Glad to see this getting a little bit of play. Then we have some Renfri Crochet Harpies and some V decks. Nothing too surprising here. Fruits, again, most popular deck, followed by Tattering. Not too surprising, as I think those are probably their 2 strongest decks at the moment. There we go. On to Nilfgaard. I had to make a quick adjustment. I had a couple of the decks carried over from Monsters onto this one. But by far and away, the 2 most popular things in Nilfgaard were Renfri Hyperthin. This is the one that thins to 3 with Rience and Rico combo. And then you have the Enslave Assimilate, which got a bunch of buffs, and it seemed pretty good. So no surprise, those 2 are by far the most played. And however, the one we saw the most successful was actually Knights, just pure point slam Knights. I'm kind of surprised by that because I thought the prevalence of like Witcher decks would counter it with the amount of talk control they have, but I guess they're countered just as much as my ability to talk is right now. So yeah, not too surprised here. We also saw some soldiers, Renfri soldiers, I should say, Imperial Enforcer statuses. Not any real statuses, normal statuses, just the ones with Imperial Enforcers. Well, they are fairly similar. And then some Henry assimilate over here as well. And some Golden Necker and Slave Assimilate. We saw 3 of these, which is really surprising to me. I guess the idea here is with all the buffs, you can play a Assimilate deck in Golden Necker with an Enslave 5 leader, which I did not think would be popular, but we saw a few of it, which was surprising. But that is going to be it for Nilfgaard. On to Northern Realms. We only have 3 decks here more than twice, and they're the same normal suspects. Temple Demavend, by far the most popular. Some Stockpile Sieges and a couple of Ada Siege Revenants. I could combine these into Stockpile Sieges because they're not the same. This one doesn't use Stockpile, for example. It's more, it has the Devotion stuff with Ada and the Revenants more. But yeah, nothing here, nothing surprising. A little bit, actually, I'm a little surprised Golden Necker Witchers wasn't here more because I think the deck's still quite good. We saw one of it. I guess we must not have seen 2. But yeah, Northern Realms, nothing new there. Skellige once again. 12 people we encountered playing Skellige Witchers, which is actually exactly 0. So this is an average MMR game we played. Considering we played a lot of this deck, the average game this season would have been either a Renfri Hyperthin or a Skellige Witcher deck, I guess, for us. And then we have some other stuff here. We have Renfri Beasts, Renfri Witchers, which was encountered much more highly on the ladder. I think that's because, at least I was told Lirio invented this one, and I only encountered this near the end of the ladder season. So this was much higher on the ladder than the other ones in my experience, just because the sample size is almost entirely near like the last couple days of the ladder when we were at our peak. So that's why this one's so high. Then we have some Otkel Quad Blessings, some Self Wounds, some Pirates, couple Druids, couple Raid Warriors, and then a couple of Shoop Lippies. Nothing too crazy there, although Skellige Witcher is by far the winner, apparently. For Scoia'tael, we actually have a good variety for once. Usually we don't see much variety in Scoia'tael, but this time we have mainly Trapper spams. So this will be the Trapper guy who takes your guy and turns it into a Deadeye. You keep replaying it with Heist. Then we got some other normal stuff, Milva, Hyper Control, some Symbiosis, Precision Strike Dwarves, Hyper Control without Milva, Renfri Hand Buff, Golden Necker Movement, Midrange Devotion, and Harmony. Of these, it seemed to me that the Renfri ones and the Golden Necker Movement we encountered the highest, but none of these were incredibly outside the box, I think. Nothing surprising here, though, other than the popularity of Trapper Spam. I was a little bit surprised by that one. And Syndicate maintains her tradition of never having more than 2 or 3 decks here. We have 3 Forgotten Treasures and 2 Golden Necker Salamanders. The only things we encountered more than once from Syndicate. I don't have much else to say about that. So overall, the most popular decks of the season in my ladder experience was Renfri Hyperthin and Slave Assimilate, Skellige Witchers, Temple Demavend, Fruits, Tatterwing, Otkel Quad Blessing, Pirates, Renfri Beasts, Trapper Spam, Renfri Soldiers, Nilfgaard Knights, Renfri Witchers, and Skellige, and Milva Hyper Control. I'm not too surprised by this. This makes sense with what I remember playing against. As far as the leaders, though, let's take a look. Monsters seem to like Arrakis, Swarm, and Fruits of Iskith, along with Overwhelming Hunger. Again, a lot of these are flexible leaders, which you can kind of see here. Some Carapace, they all did get played, which was kind of nice to see. Well, we saw, I think, 3 different vampires. I think we saw 1 Renfri vampire, 1 Devotion vampire, and 1 Golden Necker vampire. Actually, I think there's 2 of one of them, but yeah, a lot of variety. For Northern Realms, it's the same thing. We have a bunch of Inspired Zeal and then miscellaneous other stuff. Royal Inspiration is for Knights, by the way. A lot of Knights we saw. Did we mention Knights on this? I feel like it must have been on here. Oh, we messed up, guys. We messed up. It's not Northern Realms Knights. It's not Nilfgaard Knights. It's Northern Realms Knights that was so popular. I must have typed it in wrong because they're... Yeah, this should be on the North. This should be on Northern Realms, the Knights. Let me just adjust that real quick. All right, we fixed it. Nilfgaard, no Knights on there. Northern Realms, we did have Knights on there. Let me recenter this. So yeah, Northern Realms Knights was the one that was most successful, which was a surprise to me. I was like, why is Knights in Nilfgaard? It's like, I don't remember Nilfgaard Knights. Yeah, this is right. This makes way more sense. This is correct. So Northern Realms Knights also has the one we encounter the highest MMR for Northern Realms, which I thought was surprising. Half of this was Falibor, half wasn't. By combining together, because it's the same deck, basically. Other than the Falibor and Ale, a lot of the cards are the same. Okay, it makes way more sense. Royal Inspiration. Can't believe I messed that up. I'm sorry, guys. We'll have to maybe leave that one. I can't cut everything out. Like 2 mistakes. But anyway, that's Northern Realms leaders. Nothing surprising here. All of them getting used. Reavers, of course, throwing the mobilization uses in. For Scoia'tael, we saw no Mahakam Forge, because Dwarves has basically turned into a Precision Strike deck at this point. Everyone wants to play the Precision Strike leader, just because it gives you that removal, it gets you the consistency thinning early, lets you get tempo set up, which is something the deck really likes. And then they now just use the Filavandrel to play the extra copy of the Sultan's Company. So that's why that one's not here anymore. Couple Homries, mostly Guerrilla Tactics and Precision Strikes that I ambush for the trap decks. You know, these guys do their thing. But Guerrilla Tactics is really flexible, so different stuff uses, like Movement uses it, some Harmony uses it, and then also as Devotion Midrange uses it. Precision Strike, a lot of different control decks play it. So that's Scoia'tael. For Skellige, oh, here we go once again. Here we go. We've got Onslaught really taking over here. Oh wait, no it isn't. Because this time it's Reckless Flurry. There's always one Skellige leader that can like completely dominate. So we have 21 Reckless Flurry decks we ran into, which is a lot. I don't think I have to specify that. And then 10 Patricidal Furies, 6 Onslaughts, and then just miscellaneous stuff of the other one. If we compare it to Nilfgaard, which is the other one that had the most different leaders. Oh, we didn't get there yet. We'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there. You can kind of see that this is just dominated by these two. Yeah, there's so much Reckless Flurry. That's because Reckless Flurry is in Skellige Witchers, which is the most common deck we played. There's also a bunch of Shoop decks, and some Renfri decks, and some Lippy decks. Shoop and Lippy decks are the same thing. Also some Saris decks. Nothing too surprising there, although this is kind of troubling a little bit. Then Nilfgaard, same type of deal. 2 leaders dominating, and bet you can guess what they are. They're Tactical Decision, because of Renfri and the popularity of the Renfri Hyperthin deck. I don't know if I want to call it Hyperthin, but no one else to call it. Thin's like 3. Renfri Rience, call it that, I guess, next time. And then Enslaved, because it got buffed and everyone to try it out. So those 2 dominated, and then some like miscellaneous in here. Imposter got buffed too, so I saw a couple people trying that out. Some formations, some Toussaint Hospitality, couple double crosses, couple imposters. It's for the status decks. But yeah, just dominated by Enslaved and Tactical Decision. Whenever Tactical Decision is the most popular Nilfgaard leader, I generally don't think that's great, though, because that's one of the, like, just point slammy leaders. But whatever. For Syndicate, we actually saw everything except Jackpot, which is nice. Mostly heading cash, but Moneyline Pockets, off the books, Congregation. Get the idea. Not much data set here, so can't really take much out of that. So overall, for the most popular leaders, we are, of course, going to be dominated by the ones we just saw. That being Reckless Flurry at number 1 by far. Then we got 2 Nilfgaard ones in Tactical Decision and Enslave. Then Patricidal Fury, Guerrilla Tactics, you guys can read them all down here. But really, these 3 are the ones that dominated this season. As far as deck types, I might cut this out. I think I say that every time, but mostly mid-range. Some combo, some control, some engine, some point slam. Not much Point Slam. Point Slam's just basically turned into mid range at this point. There's only a few pure Point Slam decks, but yeah. And then a lot of combo stuff too, once again. Overall, though, nothing too surprising here. Let's move on to the neutral packages. And here we go. These are the neutral packages as I see them. We have Renfri coming in here at 8% of all the games we played, which is a good amount. Like that's a lot of games, but it's not too much where it's like, annoying me. But if it's like 25 or 30%, I get to complain a lot. But at this point, whatever. She's still pretty popular though. Followed up by Golden Necker at like 4 or 5%, which is Golden Necker's ridiculously strong. We got a couple Shoops, couple Strong Trucks, couple I don't know, I just said Constructs, couple Bombs. No dragons this time. Although I think there was one dragon who just doesn't show up here because of the percentages. No, actually, I don't think there was a dragon. Yeah, so that's the neutral packages. On to Devotion. Devotion's kind of falling off, unfortunately. Yeah, we only saw 22% Devotion and 78% non-Devotion. I think it was much higher the last couple seasons. Yeah, so I don't know what's up with that, but well, I do know what's up with that. A lot of stuff needs the heat waves, or they need like more control, and the devotion decks don't have those. Like Devotion Symbiosis, you play it, and then they play one big giant card with an ability, you just lose because you can't kill it, like a Messenger from the Sea or something, and then they play a Kraken. But yeah, so there's some issues there, but otherwise, like Devotion's just kind of not popular right now, in my experience. And then the favorite part of some of you guys, the emote spammers, disconnectors, only 3 disconnectors and no emote spammers, but the disconnectors were, perhaps unsurprisingly, our 1 mill player, our 1 Renfri Vampire player, and then a random pirate player. So that will be it for this season summary. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I always like these things, and hope you guys have fun in the next season, and we will see you then.